Hey, Megan Scully, and this is the Limerick Post Show. Coming up in today's show, the big interview is with Laura of the Fame Factory, and she told us all about how the studio has reopened. First up to the top stories in Limerick, and Taoiseach Micheál Martin announced that schools will reopen at the end of August. That is secondary and primary national schools. You can read more about that online at limerickpost.ie. Next up, entries are open now for the Michael Hartnett Poetry Competition, and all information is online. Now to our Out and About section, and Cian caught up with author Siobhan MacDonald. First up though, Mick Flannery told me all about how he's been getting on in lockdown.
You're no stranger to Limerick. I think now it'll be twice within a few days you're going to be here. You were here last Saturday in Dolan's, and that was another very special gig to, I suppose, raise awareness about venues as well.
Yeah, that was a kind of a partnership with a lot of the smaller venues around Ireland and some of the bigger, I guess Roisin Dove might have been the biggest venue on the list, and Whelan's in Dublin. And then there was a lot of other smaller venues. I don't know, it was just a little, I guess, just a friendly gesture that, if they would like to sell tickets to their normal kind of mailing lists or whatever, that they would take half the ticket. We didn't make anybody a fortune, but it was just a kind of a nod or a thank you to them for all, things they've done in the past. A lot of those small venues that run on very tight profit margins, and that most of them are like passion projects for the people that run them. So it's kind of sad to feel that those people are under stress and that they might not see the way out of it,
And those places you mentioned, and especially of course Dolan's, they're such special venues as well, and so many artists that visit them. There's something about these intimate places and, the crowds that come along that is just very special to any artist that gets to go up on stage.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed them. They used to make me very nervous before, about, years ago when I was starting to play, and I was worried about making mistakes and stuff like that. But now I definitely feel the privilege of it, that you get to be invited to play in these places. Yeah, and for the audience as well, they do Dolan's and Collins and Cork and all the venues that were on that list. They all provide a really good community service to music lovers, and I always like going to gigs. I didn't go to as many as I probably should have, but I always remember the atmosphere of the place.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I don't know, I feel grateful to the places for the memories that they're part of, Yeah, so they're worth supporting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of supporting, you're going to be back again on Wednesday in Dolan's, performing a virtual gig. So, and I think it's safe to say everyone misses gigs so much. I'm sure as a musician, but also us gig goers. It's like that, as you said, it's such a special place to be in, and it creates a sense of community. And I think it's great to see that artists such as yourself are putting on virtual shows in these venues. So you're getting to be on the stage, and then we're getting to tune in as well and to kind of have that experience. So that's on Wednesday. How can people kind of come along virtually to the gig?
Those will be their invite thing, or I think you can buy them on Bandcamp, or at my website there'll be a link for them. The one on Wednesday night it's a weird one. It's it's being broadcast to North America, so one of them is quite late. We start at midnight, I think.
Oh,
so
wow.
That we're broadcasting to North America at around, say in New York, it would be at their 7 p.m. But yeah, and I'm sure I think there's another one as well. I'm so sorry not to have the right info. I just know that there's that late one for sure. And I'm planning to be as sober as I possibly can be at midnight.
Getting ready for your American audience.
One thing you were meant to do in the middle of the pandemic basically was to launch your book. Now, the way you've launched it might have changed, but you still launched your book.
I did, and it's amazing how creative people can be under pressure. And as I say, necessity is the mother of invention. I think that's the saying. And team in O'Mahony's, there's a fantastic team in O'Mahony's in Limerick. I cannot praise them highly enough. I mean, they're very creative. They've a great approach to the situation. So I had been going to do an in-person launch. I had been dealing with Colette Cotter and the team in O'Mahony's. And just by the by, in the middle of the pandemic, I had been having these email correspondences with her, and I just said, oh, pity about the launch, but at least the book is going ahead, because there was so much uncertainty, and I was hearing about all these books being cancelled and publication, well, not being cancelled, but the publication dates being moved out. And Colette said, look, we'll put our thinking caps on, you know, we have an idea and I'll get back to you. So she came back to me and she said, look, we are going to embrace this brave new world, and we're going to try and do a virtual launch. And she said, you know, Roisin Meany is also launching her new book, The Restaurant, and Roisin's having a virtual launch. So we'll see if we can do the same thing. So, you know, it was a bit of fun. We went, well, it was very strange to walk down O'Connell Street with nobody in O'Connell Street.
Yeah.
I think it must have been about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I went in with 2 other Limerick authors, Roisin Meany, as I mentioned earlier, and Judy Curtin, and we went into an empty bookshop, and I did a little spiel about my book. I did a little bit of a reading. Roisin and Judy said a few words as well, and Colette said a few, and we put it all together. The people sent in other Limerick writers and family and friends, and they put it together and made a bit of a show of it. So it was really novel, and I mean, it was nerve-wracking to watch it after the event at home and not be there. You know, this kind of strange disconnect of being in your own skin and yet you're in this virtual world as well. So, you know, I think it went down well. It was a bit of fun, and what was great really was, I mean, I didn't have a celebration or anything like that because it was right in the middle of lockdown and we were told we couldn't gather. But at one stage, I looked out into the garden and my husband said, there are a lot of ladies in the garden. So I looked out. And my book club had pitched up totally impromptu with a lovely bouquet of flowers and something bubbly. So we all, you know, stood around the garden and had a chat, and that was really fun. So yeah, we just have to go with the way things are at the moment, and it's not such a bad way to go. And so many things have become virtual in the last while. A lot of the book festivals and author chats like what we're doing now. So, you know, it's new, it's novel, and, you know, some parts of it may be here to stay after this, you know, blinking C word goes away. So, yeah.
But as an author, a lot of your work is done on your own anyway. So
that's right.
These book launches are usually a point where you actually get to meet people who will read your work. That's
right. Well, I mean, somebody was saying to me recently, you know, well, writers tend to work alone and work in isolation. And that's true. But what's been different about this situation is writers tend to do that by choice when they need space and need thinking room. But when you're forced into a situation where you're feeling isolated and it's not of your own volition and it's not something you choose to do, and it's because of extraneous circumstances, you begin to rail against something like that because you're not the one in control. There are outside circumstances in control. And that, in a way, you would imagine that you'd be a lot more productive in a situation like a pandemic, and that you would read more and write more. But I think at the beginning of all of this, it was just so hard to get your head around.
As you can see, we're in the Fame Factory, and I'm delighted to be joined by Laura. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for coming to the Fame Factory.
I have to say, the last time we were here, you were teaching me some yoga for World International Yoga Day, but now a very different time for you.
It feels like forever ago, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I say so much has changed since then. As of course, you know, COVID-19 happened and you had to close your studio door. Can you bring me back to that moment when you realised you were going to have to shut the doors?
I suppose we were doing classes. The pandemic had started to spread around the world, and there was a huge announcement then that, you know, everything would shut, particularly schools. So we pretty much followed in line with schools locally, and we shut our doors. And for about 3 weeks, we kind of worked hard behind the scenes. And we said, how are we going to make this work? The children were missing it. I was missing the children. And it is very much like a family here. We have kids that travel from all over Limerick City and County to come to classes every week. Some of them come for, one class. Some come for 3 or 4. So, we launched online. So we went online with Zoom. And some of the children were logging in 3-4 days a week to take classes. Yeah.
And I suppose, I think you mentioned it about 3 weeks. I think initially we were told, okay, we're going to lockdown for 2 weeks' time. I think we all were like, okay, 2 weeks, we can do this. Yeah. But obviously it went on longer and longer. Can you talk to me about going on to Zoom? Have you used Zoom before? Or did you know how to use it or anything? Or
I had used it once. And when I used it, I was invited to use it. So I didn't have Zoom set up. I didn't have an account. It was kind of alien to me. I knew of Skype. But yeah, we just, I suppose, all of us, we were all learning together, me and the parents. The parents were fantastic. They really, really adapted well. And of course, the children were amazing with it. They knew how to do things I didn't know how to do on Zoom. Little icons they'd put in, they'd be chatting to me. I'm like, how did you do that? But they were brilliant. Yeah, it was great. It was good fun.
It was good. I have to say, we of course saw the video as well. It was super. But then I suppose time came where you could open up the studio again. So how did you prepare for opening back up?
Oh, so I suppose we were watching the news. I'm affiliated to a dance association who were fantastic with us as well, the AIDF. And I think as well, we kind of wanted to find out as much information as we could to make this the safest environment for children. So we did 4 different COVID courses and the COVID officer courses, and we took the best from each one. And then we implemented that throughout the studio. We have dots on the floor, so all the children have a spot where they would go when they come in. They even have a dotted area for their drinks, sanitising stations throughout the studio and outside. And the children enter through the front door, leave through the back. So we're trying to kind of stagger the next class. So lots of different new rules implemented. But we came back last week and it's all going really well so far.
How are the children taking to be back in the studio?
They're so excited, which is fantastic because we didn't know, we were kind of nervous ourselves. How will it be? But the children were 12 weeks on Zoom, so they were watching me through a screen. And I suppose with just the excitement of physically seeing each other or seeing a couple of children dance together was really so much fun.
It must be so hard for them though, because I was saying that, I suppose, they have the dots here on the floor, but how have they been taken to not being able to kind of get close to each other?
I think the kids have really adapted. I don't know, I think children are so compliant if they're guided and if their parents are already, have gone through some things for their general outside of dance class, and then we take them through when they come in, if you want to go to the toilet, procedures, or, make sure to clean your hands, no holding hands, that sort of thing. And they're so good. I think they're just so excited to be back to anything that's kind of normal. So yeah, they've been brilliant.
It's absolutely brilliant. You were saying earlier as well that you've had to reduce the size of numbers just kind of, I suppose, with the space and to keep them apart, and everyone's been okay with that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So of course we try to keep, where they're children that were great friends, or they're excited to see their friends, and we've tried to keep those children together. But we have reduced our class sizes, which means we kind of double up on the hours that we do at the studio. But we're willing to do that, particularly for September. We still have people on waiting lists that we are getting back to as soon as we can. But we're in the middle of placing people for September, and that's like the next exciting build-up. Really, we can't wait. Yeah,
I think it's great for the children because I suppose we only got the go ahead for schools opening now next month, but I think it's great that they got to come in here and be together because I think children were really missing each other.
They were. I think it's a great preparation for them as well. So easing them in slowly. I know I have a little girl. She's 5 years old, and she was so excited to see some of her friends in the studio that will be going to school with her as well. Brilliant. So it's a great kind of reintroduction for them. They're missing their play dates, they're missing the park. It's just not things that we can do as regular as we used to. So yeah, this has been a great escape for children. Some fun.
It's absolutely wonderful. So I know there is a waiting list already, but maybe for a further down the line waiting list, where can people find you?
Well, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, and we're in the middle of building our website at the moment, so thefamefactory.ie. will go live in the next few weeks. So just look us up. You will find us on social media at the moment, or you can call me as well here at the studio. 087 9755520.
Laura, it's an absolute pleasure to be back here in studio with you in person and to see the Fame Factory and the way you have it all spread out. And thank you so much for chatting to us.
Thank you for coming. Thanks so much.
For these stories and so much more, head over to limerickpost.ie/show. I'm Meghann Scully. This is the Limerick Post Show, keeping Limerick posted.